ready for bed at a regular time is one of the most important habits you can learn.
Who you gonna call?
Ghostbusters! Jason was my son, and today is his birthday.
Oh, Lori, scared another one away.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Sorry, Jack. Chucky's back.
We are counselors at Hackett's Quarry Summer Camp. There is a swarm of bears.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy.
Most people are so ungrateful to be alive, but not you.
It's showtime.
Hello, and welcome back to another fabulous and wonderful episode of the Scream Stream number 4. And on today's very special episode, we will be talking about my all-time favorite horror movie ever. No, despite popular beliefs, Halloween is not my all-time favorite scary movie. It's my favorite slasher movie, but it ain't my favorite scary movie. Hi Rex, how you doing? Welcome to the podcast. But on today's episode, oh shit, grabbed the wrong thing. Whoopsie. But on today's episode, as you can see, I don't have my buddy Bidwell with me. He is unfortunately sick. Bidwell, hope you feel better if you're listening to this. We definitely got to get together at some point and play some Friday the 13th. And I'm also sorry I'm a little late. My roommate did want to join up on us, but he has something at the last minute come up, so he had to go take care of that real quick. So I'm fine doing this by myself because I could talk about this movie all day, every day, 24 hours a day. Like I said, it's my all-time favorite horror movie, and it is The Changeling from the 1980s. And I had to be that specific because apparently there's a Changeling from the mid-2000s with Angelina Jolie in it. Didn't know that. Didn't really care for that one. But this movie holds a very, very special place in my heart because it was not only the first haunted house movie I ever saw growing up, it's a movie that even still till this day, I am traumatized by this movie. Like, I'm talking about, let me put it this way. There was a game I was playing called Song of Horror. And in this game, there's a section near the ending, I think it's around chapter 5 or something. It's always chapter 5. It's always something 5. Episode 5, chapter 5. You know, it's always 5s that freak me out. But in chapter 5, there's a scene where the main character, I can't remember who the fuck you are. I think you're playing Daniel at that point. I don't remember. But you're playing the game, and you get to the corner, and there's a fucking wheelchair with a dead body in there. It ain't like the new school wheelchair. This is the old school wheelchair. It's the wheelchair you see in this cover photo right here, which is also the cover of the original VHS version of The Changeling. Fun fact. And it was red. The whole box was red. But I digress. But this particular wheelchair, you know, I saw it, I made a little comment about it, and I start to walk away. Out of the corner of my eye, I see the wheelchair, like the top of the wheelchair, coming at me. So I panic, and I go, I gotta get the fuck out of this room. So I run the hell off. Well, it started chasing me, and I screamed to get the fuck out of this room. I honestly screamed to get the fuck out of this room. Finally got out, had to pause the game, apologize, but that's how much this movie has traumatized me. But as you can see from the title, it's called The Changeling. And it was made, like I said, back in the 1980s by Peter Medak? I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. It's spelled M-E-D-A-K. To be perfectly honest, I don't know a lot of his cinematography or anything like that. Looking him up, it turns out he did a couple of episodes for the show House, Hannibal, and some of the like 80, 90 versions of The Twilight Zone. But yeah, other than that, I don't actually know the particular information on which episodes they were. I didn't delve that far into this guy. But, yeah, no, he's done some episodes for modern, so he's still doing TV shows and stuff nowadays. But In 1980, this movie was filmed in British Columbia near Vancouver, and it was filmed during December of 1978 to February of 79. And what makes this movie very interesting in its filming is, well, just the set locations themselves. Unfortunately, a lot of the set pieces, such as the iconic house itself, it's no longer with us. And let me actually delve into some information about that. So, the exterior of the house was actually built in the suburbs just for this movie. And I guess somewhere in the line, they had to get rid of it. Well, I mean, how else do you get rid of a house besides demolish it? Well, if again, if you've never seen the movie, I'll dive more into this later. But at the end of the movie, the house is on fire. They actually set this house on fire, like legitimately set it on fire and let it burn, and it took one take. That's all they could do, and for some reason, thank the heavens of God, that one take took. So it became a very iconic moment with that house burning. And I didn't even know that until I was doing some research on this movie, that they legitimately burned the exterior house down. So unfortunately, the only thing left of the, I guess, front of the house would be that stop sign Claire stopped at in the beginning of the movie. I was also very disappointed to find out that the interior shots were not even a real house, that they were actually built on a studio, Paramount Studios, which, sadly enough, is no longer in business and is also demolished. I don't know exactly when it got demolished, but it couldn't keep up with a lot of the modern, I guess, studios at the time. So unfortunately, it got demolished because they couldn't afford to stay open, which is sad. Which is very sad. And I'm just very sad that the fact that it wasn't a real house. I literally thought up till about 4 hours ago that the inside of this house was very much real, and I was very, very wrong. But I can't say, the senator's place at the end of the movie where John and the senator had their conversation, that place is very much still standing. And here's actually some fun historical facts about it. It's called Hetley's Castle, and apparently it was a military college at the time when they did the filming. I should have wrote this down, but I didn't. It's still standing, still the original, like, exterior and everything, still in the original interior, I presume, but it's used for something else now. It's not a military college anymore. But I thought that was kind of interesting, that it was a military college. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know it was filmed in the castle. I thought it was just a very nice building. And the other, like, important iconic sets would be the other one that's still not standing is Mrs. Gray's house near the middle of the movie. Her house, unfortunately, has been demolished and looks nothing like it did back in the 80s. It looks nothing like it did back in the 80s. It is, I think, now has a house with a gate, like a big ass gate. Like, I saw pictures of it. But yeah, unfortunately that one's not still standing. And I think one of the other iconic buildings was filmed in Vancouver, which is the historical building where John and Claire are having a conversation, where Minnie, Mrs. Huxley, walks up to John and is just like, "There's some question about your lease, Mr. Russell." That building, don't mistake it for the Flatiron Building. A lot of people apparently have, but it's actually some kind of Europe travel or something. I didn't quite catch what it was, but it's some kind of famous, not famous building. It is famous building, but it's some kind of like actual real estate building or whatnot, and it's still standing. It's still the same. But yeah, I just found that interesting about a lot of the sets, unfortunately, are just no longer with us. Like, they got demolished. And that's kind of sad to hear, especially the house. Like, I'm sorry, that Chessman house, if you ever want to look it up, seriously, look up this house. It was a gorgeous, huge-ass house. Like, it shouldn't even be in the house. It should have been a fucking mansion. This thing had 3 stories. I don't know how many bedrooms. I don't know how one man could live in that house by himself, but he did. He did. But let's talk about the cast a little bit, and I'll dive more into the movie after I talk about the cast and the musical choice, because I want to make love to this music, but we'll get there in a minute. Brief discussion about our cast. I really don't know much about Trish Van, who plays Claire, and I really don't know much about Mr. Douglas, who's played Senator Carmichael. I looked into their filmography. I didn't really see anything that I recognize. Now, on the other hand, though, George C. Scott, who plays John, the main character of this whole movie, everybody should recognize this man. This man is known for Kinderman in The Exorcist 3, which has to be by far my second favorite Exorcist movie ever. Granted, that's a very short list because there's only 2 Exorcist movies I like. I'm sorry, I didn't care for the second Exorcist. I didn't care for the Exorcist Beginning or whatever the hell it was called. I just liked the first one, the third one, and then the TV show. But he was also known as well for the Stephen King movie, or the adaptation of the Stephen King book, Firestarter in '84. Not the new one, but the older one. And of course, a lot of older folks probably recognize him from A Christmas Carol that came out in '84 as well, where he played the main character in that. And also Dr. Strangelove. But George, hands down, has to be like one of the key important characters, besides being the main character of the whole movie. His acting is just on par. Like, I have to say that about all the actors. The acting in this movie is phenomenal. Like, you feel these characters, especially John. John, again, I'll dive more into John's character in the next section, but George C. Scott did an amazing job portraying a very broken man who's still trying to stay strong, and I can very much appreciate that. But he also brings this kind of like brooding energy about himself, where he's just, all right, this is what's happening. We're just going for it. Because I'm gonna be honest. You find out your house is haunted, what would you do? Like, if I found out my house was haunted, I'll fucking burn the house down and leave myself. But, you know, John finds out the house is haunted, and he's just like, you know what, I'm gonna help this ghost. What can I do to help you, sir? Why are you trying to communicate with me? Like, this man just takes the initiative and just brute force his way through this movie. And I fucking love it. I don't know how the hell he manages to do this, but I fucking love it. And like I said, Trish Van, who did Claire, she brings a nice balance to John's character. With her, not disbelief, but she's kind of with John, where she's seeing this shit happen, and she, if I may digress for a second, there's a lot of horror movies out there where the main character goes through something like similar to what John went through, and he's just a broken man throughout the whole movie, and nobody's there by his side to help him out, or back him up, or do anything to help him, because usually the hauntings happen when nobody else is around, or, you know, somebody sees it and they don't believe it. Claire sees this shit, she witnesses this shit, and she's still willing to stay and help John out and figure this whole thing out, which I like that. I like the little, like, duo buddy cop thing they had going on for a minute. Like, that shit was good. And the guy who plays Senator Carmichael, granted, he's not in it very much, but he is a key important character because of the whole plot to the movie. And again, I'll dive more into that in a minute. But first, let me make some sweet, passionate love to this music. Rick Wilkins. Sir. I don't know who you are. I've looked into your filmography as well. I don't know a single fucking movie you have done except for this one. But I'm going to have to say, sir, the music in this movie makes me just want to watch other movies you have done so I can hear more of your fantastic music, because you, sir, know how to make the most creepy, atmospheric, but whimsical music, and I fucking love you for that, dude. Like, oh my god. Let me put it this way. This score doesn't just use strings like a lot of horror movies nowadays. He uses a lot of brass instruments, a lot of trumpets, and a lot of choir singing, which I always appreciate a good choir singing. But I have to say, the way he uses the strings with the brass instruments, a lot of trumpets and horns, I have to say, it's fantastic. It's really fantastic because he builds it up in such a way that you feel the tension, but it's not broken by the heavy instruments. And I can appreciate a good score like that, because nowadays it's a lot of strings, a lot of wind instruments, you know, because it's more high pitch, and it's like, oh god, what's that word I'm looking for? It's like not an earworm to your ear, but it basically sends a signal to your brain that something creepy is about to happen. And I hate to say it, I'm so used and tired of it. That's how we could tell when a jump scare is about to happen. You know, we're just like, all right, yeah, the violin's going up, and jump scare, and there it is, you know. And I will say there are some scenes like that, but it's done a hell of a lot better than most movies nowadays, I have to say. So let us go ahead and dive right on in to this movie. Shit. There we go. Alright. So I'll give you a simple synopsis real quick before I dive like scene by scene. Is George C. Scott plays a guy named John Russell who tragically lost his family in the beginning of the movie, and he has now kind of walled himself off in this brand new house that he's renting from the Historical Society, and strange occurrences start happening. So he tries to investigate with the help of his friend Claire. So let's go ahead and dive on into this beautiful masterpiece of a movie that I can make sweet, passionate love to, because goddamn, I love this movie. I will say to the fucking heavens. Oh, what's that saying? I'll sing it to the heavens drop or some bullshit. But the point is, I love this fucking movie. So, let me kind of break it down for y'all. Oh, hang on. Why is it I'm only dehydrated when I'm talking on my podcast? Like gaming, I'm not all that dehydrated. Fucking at work, I'm not all that dehydrated. As soon as I start my podcast, it's like my throat just dries the fuck up. But you have, like I said, in the beginning of the movie, you know, John loses his family. And what makes the beginning so, like, not only sets the tone and the theme for this movie, but it adds a very dramaticness to it that I don't see in a lot of openings. Like I said, he loses his wife and children, and it's built up in such a way. It's literally like a slap to the face, and you just gotta deal with it. But basically, his car breaks down. So him, his wife, his child, they're pushing it, and they wind up at a phone booth, and he's like, y'all stay here, I'm gonna go call AAA. So as he's making the phone call, you know, his wife and daughter, they're having a little snowball fight, waiting outside, and then he senses bullshit happening. Like, he gets the disturbance in the force, and he's just like, what? And he sees it, and he can't do anything about this, because he's now trapped in this phone booth. You see, when he originally opens the phone booth, he's having a little problems, but, you know, he still gets in, closes the door, but now he can't get out, so he's kind of stuck watching his wife and daughter get run over by a truck that gets kind of pushed off the road by another car coming in. Because it's basically like you have the car here, you have the truck coming down this way, and then another car coming this way. Dude, I guess, hit the turn not right, and he kind of slid a little bit. So the truck, trying to avoid it, turns right and runs over the car, hits the car, which proceeds to run over his daughter and wife. And we see all this shit go down, but what makes this scene great is that there's no music, like, at all. It's like a classic Universal horror movie. It's just the sounds of the wife and daughter screaming, the car braking, crashing, and then just the wind. And as the wind is going, we have the freeze frame on John as he's stuck in the phone booth, just banging on it, and it just says the Changeling. Now, for me, that was a very dramatic opening because of the fact that it's just there. It just punches you in the face. It's like, here's this beautiful family, and now it's over. And the fact that there's no, like, dramatic music to build this up, no, like, freeze frame, no slow motion. It's just boom, 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 opening right there. Gotta love that shit. You honestly gotta love that shit. And then, of course, you know, we cut to the opening more. You know, after the opening, the credits are going, you know, starring this guy, directed by this guy. And what I love about this scene is just simply for the fact that Rick's music is just heard in the background. The beautiful piano with the trumpets, you know, you know, it's just gorgeous. If you ever get a chance, please look up the soundtrack. At least look up the soundtrack. I hate to say it, though, if I may digress real quick. Y'all will not be able to buy the soundtrack. I looked into it myself, and it turns out there's only 2,000 copies ever made of the soundtrack. The first 1,000 copies were made back in 2001. It was just a one CD thing, and then they re-released it back in 2007 which was a deluxe edition that had 2 discs on it. And again, it was 1,000 copies. I don't know why they're being stingy with the Changeling score soundtrack, but they're being fucking stingy with that shit. But it is on YouTube, so I don't know if it's on Spotify or anything else, but I know for a fact it's on YouTube. Please go check it out. It's a beautiful score, guys. Like, it's chilling, it's haunting, it's beautiful. I highly recommend it. But, but like I said, I digress. So we have, him walking to go meet a friend. You get a little bit more character development with John right here, because, this is like several months after the incident. So you get to see him kind of packing up, dealing with the heartache. He doesn't want to be in his house anymore. So he's just kind of going with the flow, just going with the motion of the ocean, if I may say. And of course, you still see a bit of that brokenness in him, or not brokenness, but I would, it could be brokenness, but you see that he's still haunted by the memories, because at one point when they're packing up the boxes, the maid, I can't believe I'm saying that either, the maid knocks over one of the boxes, and an important key factor comes in. It's this damn bouncy red ball with a white stripe. This ball belonged to his daughter, Kathy. Yeah, and by the way, that's the name. I didn't catch the wife's name, but the daughter name is Kathy or Cassie. I can never remember. I think it's Kathy, though. But it belonged to his daughter, and of course it falls, and he has a little flashback when she was alive. She's like, "Daddy," and throws him the ball, so he catches it, and then it hits him. His daughter's dead, and you see it on his face. That, again, this brings back to why George Scott was a fantastic choice for this role, because he knows how to act with his face, if that makes any sense. And I love a good actor who can act with their face. And George does an amazing job of just having that realization of, my daughter's dead. Fuck. And then of course in the next scene, you see him talking to a friend of his, and you learn a little bit more about John, that he's not just a composer, but a distinguished composer. Everybody knows him, everybody loves him, and they all feel for him. He's a very likable guy. And that's something you really don't see a lot in horror movies nowadays, is that generally they're either very unlikable or they're very distant from people on purpose. You really don't get to see the guy who is liked and people believe him by his hauntings. So, and what also adds some character development to this as well is, once again, you see the acting of the face when it comes to George. Because at one point, his friend and his friend's wife is sitting there talking about him going to the school and teaching there while he tries to get on his feet again. And their kids come in, and one of them, of course, is a little girl that looks just like his daughter. And you just see it on his face when he looks over at her. You just see, him just stare at her, and you see that sadness behind his eyes. Just that she looks just like my daughter, man. Like, holy shit. Like, you just see it, and I find that just keep grinding that emotional thing in the movie. Just keep grinding it. They're trying to make you really feel for John, and they do an amazing job at that. So then, once he makes his decision, he decides to take a look at the house, or one of the houses. And of course, this is where we get the big reveal of the Chessman house, which is the main house in the movie that got burned down. And it, like I said before, it is a gorgeous, gorgeous house. It is 3 stories, got a garage built for like 2 or 3 cars. It's got like a fucking fountain in the middle and a wraparound driveway. Like, this thing is gorgeous as hell. Like, it really reminds me of like the Haunting of Hill House from the Netflix show. And it's just beautiful, man. It's just beautiful. But we get a look into the house, and Claire, and this is where we also get our first introduction to Claire, and we, like I said, we get to know Claire, and we get to know the house a little bit, and she shows him this house because it has a beautiful music room, and so he decides to take it, and again, I state this, it's a 3-story house with I don't know how many rooms in it. I don't know why one man needs a 3-story house to himself. Like, if I was going to live in a 3-story house with so many rooms in it, I would at least have 10 friends, and have my 10 friends bring at least 2 of their friends to stay in my house. Just saying. Like, this house is huge. And we don't even get to see the entire entry of this house or interior design of this house because we only focus on a couple of rooms in the house, which is the main room, the two rooms to the one to the right, one to the left, a little bit of the kitchen. I think the room to the left is more of the music room, but I digress. But the point is, we only see those rooms downstairs. I think his bedroom up top, and then the hallway with Joseph's room on the very top on the third floor. But yeah, we get a good look at the house. We get a good understanding of the house. And then this, of course, is where we get one of our first kind of scares in the movie. It's about like 12, maybe 13 minutes into this movie. You know, we probably get like our first subtle scare. Not like, because remember, movies back in like the 80s and 90s, especially the 80s for sure, they had a lot of build up when it came to their ghost movies. You know, nowadays they're like, this place is haunted for sure, and then here's the ghost. Back then, they kind of cared about the suspense a little bit more, so they had it slow builds when it came to, when it came to the movies. But we get our first little scare, which is John sitting there at the piano, and he's just not typing away. What, is he writing a novel? He is playing away, and he gets to one note, and the piano key just won't go. Typical horror movie fashion, the piano key won't go. And he gets interrupted by Mr. Tuttle, who comes in. He's just like, hey, there's a dude about a water storage heater. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll come take care of this. And he gets up. And then we pan over to the camera. God damn, I can't think straight today. Pan over to the piano. And, of course, we zoom in slow-mo on that key that couldn't play. And we just see it go down. And we hear one note. And then we pan away from the piano, and we just get a big overview of the room, and we just hear the creepy note just kind of echo through the room a little bit, which I think is a very jump scare because of the fact that it's dead quiet. You know, again, there's no build up, there's no like dramatic strings. It's just dead quiet. Pan to the key, ding, that kind of bullshit. But it kind of lets you know there's something definitely up with this house. You know, there's something definitely up here. And then, we get a sense that, John's not alone in his house. So, again, we see him carry on, with his life, trying to deal with everything. And we get, I'm going to say, it's one of not my favorite scenes or anything like that. It's just a funny scene to me. But John comes to his classroom. And we get to know, again, a little bit more about John and how popular and well-liked he is. He gets to his classroom where he's going to be teaching. He opens the door, and I shit you not, there's like 60, maybe 70 people in this room. Like, they're standing up against the wall. They're fucking, like, on the side, on the windows like this. There's like so many people in this room. He walks in. He's quiet as ever, just looks up. So I've been told that there are 22 people register into this room. Everyone laughs. He looks up and puts the stuff down. He's like, and we all know it's not raining outside. So unless there's a fire in another part of the building that we're not aware about, there's a lot of people here with not a lot of time. There's a lot of people here with not much to do. And I find that funny because that's just a sense of humor. Like, he knows he's so well liked that there's just going to be people who are not even part of this class to watch him. But yeah, only 22 people were supposed to be there. I just always thought it was funny because just how calm and nonchalant he is about the situation. It's just fucking hilarious. And then, after that, we get to go to this, I guess it's at the senator's house. It looks kind of like the senator's place. But we get to go to this nice fancy little party. And the senator's there. And this is our first introduction to Senator Carmichael. But we get our first introduction to Senator Carmichael. And, of course, typical senator, I don't like making a lot of speeches, but we're here because we're raising money for our symphony orchestra. And weren't they amazing? Because it's a party going on it's a charity event. So, at this point, we're about 20 minutes in the movie. So, we got, like, all our main characters met. We met Minnie. We've met the senator. We got Claire's mother, who's not really important, but she's there for some of this shit. She witnesses some of this shit as well. And, so we got like a good build up at this point. We're 20 minutes in. We got to know the house, know the characters. We got a good score, and we know something's up with the house. We know some bullshit's up with the house. And then as we carry on with the movie, we get several shots, I have to say, of how enormous this house is. Like, we pan over with the great music. Again, Rick, fantastic job. But we pan over when John gets home from the party. We get like this beautiful panoramic shot. We follow John from the garage to the front of this house, and we pan back just to see the scale of this big ass house and how alone, yet again, he truly is. And then we get our next kind of scare, which is that morning John wakes up crying because he had a nightmare about, death of his wife and kids. And while he's crying, suddenly he starts hearing banging. And, it's not just like, knocking. It's like bang, bang. And it's all over the house. Like he walks out and you just hear it just echoing throughout this entire house. And then it just stops. So, reasonable man, logical. Hey, Mr. Tuttle, check out my shit. Like, is everything okay? Is the house ain't gonna, blow up or anything? And, so he tries to be logical about it, And that's another thing I like about John's character. He's very rational, very logical. He doesn't just automatically assume, oh, my house is definitely haunted. No, he's just like, there's definitely some piping issues going on here. I just feel something's very off. But he doesn't deny that anything's happening, which I really can appreciate. He doesn't just ignore it. He's just like, yeah, something's definitely up here. But as the day goes on, the hauntings get more and more aggressive, and you will see that throughout the movie. Like it just escalates. Like, once we have our first little scare, which is the piano scare, and from that point, for the rest of the movie, it just escalates in the scares. It's like, it tries to top the scares, and it does an amazing job. Especially the last jump scare of the movie. Oh, again, that's the reason why I'm traumatized for life. But while he's, practicing, or not practicing, but he's composing another song, the door opens behind him just so subtly. And, of course, he hears it when it hits the wall. It's not like a bam, like a slam or anything, but it's just very subtle. So he turns around, and, of course, he hears the, from Joseph, and, the violins kind of pick up, and he's looking around, and you hear it again, and the more violins. And then Mr. Tuttle comes in, he's like, hey, bro, you alright? Yeah, I'm cool. And then, I have a small discussion, Tuttle runs off, and then John sits down and starts playing the piano. Like, he gets inspired, and he starts playing this beautiful, beautiful melody. And he doesn't know where it came from. He just starts playing it, and he records it. And if I may digress, John's that type of character because he's a musician, a composer. He has a giant ass tape recorder everywhere he goes in his house almost. But it does make sense because he is a composer practicing his music. So I'll get to that scene. Now, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself and thinking of some of my favorite scenes. But after he gets the music, we kind of get this like weird, not really a weird shot, but we get this really nice shot from upstairs of the house, kind of looking down towards the music room, like somebody's watching him. And of course, if you've seen the movie, it's Joseph. But also, if y'all thinking that there's actually a figure in the corner, no, this is 1980, so all their ghost scares were really well done. There was no CGI miss. There was no like outline of a character. Like we got more point of view shots than anything else, if that makes any sense. But once we again get more subtle scares to kind of let us know, hey man, something's definitely up with your house, bro. We get even more beautiful development and some kind of chemistry between him and Claire when Claire comes by and drops some paintings off. She makes notes of the music. She's like, oh, I'm going horseback riding, and she invites John. So her and John, again, beautiful score. They're riding these horses. It's beautiful. It's in the forest by this gorgeous ass water shot. It's beautiful as fuck. You hear me say that a lot in this video, just how beautiful this movie is. But when they get done, you know, again, you see the sadness in his eyes, and Claire's just like, you know, what's the matter, John? And he's just like, I'm just thinking about my daughter, how much you love horses, you know? And again, the acting with the eyes, the acting with his face, like, you really feel the pain, but he's trying to be strong. Like, we saw the part where he, you know, cries a little bit, and, you know, we sense that he's just kind of not bottling this in, but he's very well, he controls his emotions very well. And I can appreciate a good broken character who's not just either always a tough man or always sobbing. Like, he literally, I gotta stay face in front of these people, but behind closed door, I'm sad and I miss my family. And I can appreciate that. But, you know, after that scene, we get that night, and this actually is a very good scare. And that night, he has a couple of his students over. I guess they're doing a one-on-one coaching or whatever, but they're all playing music. And at the end, you know, everyone's going home, and he's, you know, getting ready for bed, and he hears water running. And he's just like, well, you know, what the fuck? So he goes into his kitchen, he turns it off, and he still hears it going. So then he, you know, goes upstairs, goes all the way to the third stair bathroom. And again, we got the beautiful trumpets going. We got the whimsical violins. We got the people, you know, go, ah, you know, in the background. We got all that bullshit happening. And he opens the door, and of course, the tub's running. So he goes to turn the water off, and as he looks in the tub, he just sees Joseph. He sees Joseph in the tub, just floating there. And I don't mean like a basic float, like the dead body. Like, we get like a POV shot of Joseph in the water, just, you know, just looking up at John. John's just like, the fuck is this shit? But the thing is, he doesn't say anything. Like, it hits him, and he's such in a state of shock that he just slowly backs out of that room, closes the door, and just walks down the hallway towards the camera as the music has done picked up and it's like settling out now. And that is such a good scare because, yet again, like I said, the music really sets that scene as he's going up that stairs, and you hear and something else is the atmospheric sounds. You hear the squeakiness of these damn floors. You hear every step as they're walking. So it adds a bit more of the creep factor to it. But, you know, once John sees that next morning, you know, he goes to talk to Claire about this, and he's just like, something's up with this house, bro. Like, I've been seeing shit. And Claire, you know, of course, you know, being a normal human, instead of, you know, saying, oh, Claire, your house is haunted, she's just like, John, you're tired. You're working very hard. You been through some shit. You'll be okay, though. Like, you know, it'll be all right. And the entire time, you know, John's just like, okay, maybe you're right. You know, maybe you're right. And then Mrs. Huxley comes out after telling Claire she's got a phone call. She goes to take it. And Mrs. Huxley, she says one of my favorite, you know, not my favorite lines, but a very quotable line. Well, she looks at him and she's like, there's some questions about your lease, Mr. Russell. Questions? You know, what kind of questions? Miss Norman rushed those papers. She did not go through the proper channels. Well, why should anybody eject? And she just looks at him and just slowly walks away. Which, if I may add, I want to know. I gotta know, what the hell did Minnie know? Because Minnie knows something. I'll get more into that later, but Minnie knows something's up. Minnie knows. I know Minnie knows. I just don't know how much she knows, though. But after that, of course, he goes back to the house, and we get another nice scene of, as he's, I don't know why we have a scene where he's, you know, talking to Claire, and we cut back to him leaving his house. Like, I guess it's like the next day or something happened. He's like, oh, I'm gonna leave the house again. But the point is, we cut back to him leaving his house, and as he's leaving, the third story window, one of the panes, that's a red window because it's like outlined in red, shatters out. And he grabs it and he looks up and he's like, okay, bet. So he goes up there, slowly, again, beautiful music. he's up there, he starts looking around and notices that the closet door is kind of, there's wood paintings behind it, like somebody pre-nailed these woods and then put the shelves. So he starts, ripping that shit off because he knows something's up. He's like, how do I get to this upstairs room? Like, I know this came out of this room, so how do I get up there? So he's tearing this shit apart, and behind there's a door with a huge ass fucking lock on there. So Josh is like, I gotta get behind this damn door. So he grabs a hammer and he starts just wailing at it. And as he's wailing at it, the banging noises come back from earlier in the movie where he had that nightmare and he woke up. And he hears it as he's like constantly hitting this damn thing. But instead of, he stops for a second because it's very loud. It's very fucking loud. Like, even when watching the movie in headphones, it's very loud. But he ends up breaking the lock and then going up there. And that's when you find out there's this room covered in cobwebs and dust. There's a wheelchair. There's a little notebook that has CSB on it. And that's where he finds the music box. And he opens it, and it's the song he was playing earlier when Joseph made the second contact with him, or technically his first contact with him. And he's sitting there just listening to it. And again, we have a beautiful shot of like the corner of the room where we get a full overview of the room. And it's just John standing there alone listening to this creepy ass music box. And of course, that night, Claire comes over, they investigate, they go upstairs and take a look. And he explains to her, I've never heard this song until that day you came over and we rode the horses together. Like, I don't know. So, and that's when you get the sense that, and even he gets the sense that everything has been happening inside the house to get him upstairs. He even says that in the statement. He's just like, something wanted me to go up there. Something's definitely up there. Something's trying to contact me. So they go up there and they look, and of course we have like a subtle, I'm talking about like, even like as a kid I didn't even know this was a scare or not, but once they leave the room, of course we pan back to the wheelchair and we just hear the sound of it like squeak, like it moved or something. It's very, very subtle, very, very subtle. But let's see, after that, of course this is where I go with Minnie knows something's up. John wants to know a little bit more history about this house because he knows something's up. At this point, he's now come to the understanding something's definitely in this fucking house. It's trying to communicate with me. Let me see what's going on. So they're trying to find the file, and they're at the Historical Society, where all the information about the house is at, and they can't find anything predating 1920. So, they're just like, Minnie, where's this file at? She's like, oh, well, why do you want to know? And, John goes, oh, we want to know who lived in the house, before 1920. And she just kind of looks a little shocked. And it's just like, it was a man named Bernard. And he was a doctor. And he had a son and a daughter. So then we get the classic, let's do some research about this character scene. Which in most horror movies, nowadays, it's like an ex machina trying to find information. But for this, it actually makes sense. Because he's digging more into who this child is. Because I forgot to mention this little detail fact, but the folder in the room, that has CSB on it, he looked at it, and it matches the name of the daughter of the dead doctor, which is Coral Bernard. She apparently died in front of the house when a passing coal car, I guess, detached or something. It's kind of hard to read the article because you gotta pause because it happens so fast, because they're doing old school searching with the computer articles and shit. And you find out Coral Bernard, she got killed, and so John thinks it might be Coral reaching out to him because of what happened to his daughter. And he's like, I just can't go through all this shit again. And Claire, she's trying to talk him down a little bit, like, hey man, maybe you just need to get the fuck out of that house for a little bit, maybe you just need some air. Well, then we get to I love this scene. I fucking love this scene. It's one of my favorite scenes. It's not my favorite scene, but it ranks up there at least in my top 3 scenes. This scene in particular is very bone-chilling to me, even as a kid, and even nowadays I still get a little chills down my spine. But as he, is sitting at home and he's thinking about his family, he's going through this beautiful photo album, he hears the sound of a bouncing ball. And it's the fucking ball his child had. And he just hears it. Doo, 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 doo. And it just rolls in front of the door, and he looks, he gets up and grabs it, and he looks at the ball, and he looks up at the house, not at the house, he looks up at the hallway, and of course the hallway is pitch fucking black, there's nothing up there, there's nobody else in this damn house. So he takes this ball, again, let me emphasize, he takes the ball, he goes outside, down the road, I don't even know where this road's at, but he goes to a bridge. He takes this ball and drops it off a bridge. Like, it's in the water, it's gone, no problem. He comes back to his house, opens the door, closes it, goes to take his jacket off, and as he's taking his jacket off, he hears the sound of gargling water, and he looks up. Here comes that damn bouncy ball down the stairs from that dark ass hallway with the fucking score going on, and the score is literally a choir singing oh, 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 as it's bouncing down these stairs, and the trumpet's like bun dun, like fucking Satan himself just came down the fucking staircase. It's like, here John, you left this. But what makes this scene even fucking more terrifying is the ball is wet. The ball is wet. So Joseph followed his ass to this fucking bridge, grabbed the ball, brought it back, and threw it back down the stairs. It's like, bro, I need to communicate with you. Okay, son, like, talk to me. But what made that scene even scarier, not only is the fact that, this ball is wet, it just came back, but again, George Scott, fantastic actor. He looks at the ball and in such a state of shock, just hits the wall. That's it. Like, he just backs up to the door and he's just like, what the fuck? So at this point, he is 100% convinced that there's some bullshit in this house. So he goes and seeks professional help. He's just like, what do I do, man? And the psychiatrist is looking at him like, I believe you about all this, man. I believe you. We can get you a medium. So they get a medium, right? And this has to be hands down one of my favorite seance scenes ever. I'm talking about more than the man's red face reveal, more than any kind of seance scene I've seen in the last 20 years. But we get, oh god, I just love talking about this scene. So, all in the seance scene, we got John, Claire, her mother, the medium, and I'm assuming her husband? It's never classified as what he is to her, but he helps, her in these situations. But, they're getting everything ready, and John's taping this, by the way. He's using his equipment for his composing, and he's taping the seance. And we get this scene where the medium, she goes upstairs. I didn't get the actress's name. I probably should have. But she did a really good job. Very creepy, very subtle about her creeps. But she goes upstairs and she kind of does a little investigation. She gets a sense that something's here. So we quick cut to downstairs, and she's like, you suffer a loss, John Russell. You lost your wife and daughter, and now someone's trying to reach out. And she's, oh god, what do they call it? Where they can, if you saw Rose Red, one of the characters could do it too, but she could write out what the ghost is saying. And as she's, writing, she's just like, are you trying to reach out to John? What is your name? And then she writes out Joseph. And they pull the paper away, and she's like, because she asked, are you the child killed by the cold car? No. So she writes down no. And she ends up, she keeps going and going. And she's like, you're trying to reach out, speak to us. What are you trying to say? And she writes out, help, John, help. And she's like, she's losing control at this point. Like, papers are going everywhere. And she's like, all like freaking the fuck out. And, her husband calms her down. And then they turn off the lights, open up the curtains, and then we have this scene where there's a glass, like a very nice wine glass, by the way, and this tall aluminum can thing. And as they're talking, and we get this POV shot, I guess Joseph coming down the stairs, and he's slowly making his way down. And as they're talking, you see the aluminum can just start, as they're going, it just keeps getting faster and faster and faster, and then suddenly it stops. And so does the music. And then, of course, as it's quiet, the glass just goes flying across the room, shatters against a cabinet. You hear everyone screaming, the girls are crying, and then we just get this beautiful shot of back upstairs to Joseph's room, and we just see the door close, just nonchalantly. Oh, but I'm not done with the seance scene yet. So after the seance scene, again, this whole thing is just one of my favorite parts of this movie. After this whole scene, John then goes back to listen to the recording. And, he turns it on, he fast forwards to some point, he's smoking a cigarette, and we get to are you the child killed by the cold car? And then just in a subtle whisper, we hear, no. And he stops, and he, goes, what the fuck? And the music starts coming in, he backs it up, turns up the volume a little bit, listens again, and you hear the no again. And you just hear him just repeatedly go back, turn the volume up, go back, turn the volume up. And it just gets louder and louder, and you just hear, just no. So he keeps going. And you can hear Joseph basically talking back every time she asked him a question. She was like, what is your name? Joseph. And, he's going back. And, well, as a kid, I couldn't really understand why he was doing that. But as an adult, I get it now. He's basically trying to make sure he's hearing this shit right. He's just like, is this really on this fucking tape? Just going back and forth. And it plays out, and it's just like, how did you die? And he's just like, my father. How? My room. And then, John's sitting there with a cigarette, and he ends up, like, just zoning out, and he drops the cigarette, and he's just like, how did you die? How did you die? And then Joseph kind of shows him how he dies. And it's very sad, very, very sad. And me and Andrew were going to discuss this part, but we get to see how Joseph died. And it's basically his father went up to his bedroom while he was taking a bath and grabbed him by his legs and basically drowned him. He held him under the water, like pulled his legs up and basically drowned him. And the banging you hear throughout the movie, it's Joseph banging on the tub trying to get a grip so he could pull himself up, but he can't. Because his dad's literally got his legs, like, really up. And we're cutting between Joseph drowning and, like, splashing around, and his dad holding his feet, and the music box got knocked over, so we're hearing, like, the whimsical creepiness of the music box, and just Joseph, going, Father, don't, and then him drowning, and he's just like, oh, it's just so powerful. And then you get the key factor of the scene, where he goes, my name is Joseph Carmichael. And then we cut away to John, just sitting there, just hearing the of the tape, because the tape's done run out. So he calls Claire up, and he's just like, Claire, I need you to come the fuck over. Like, I need to make sure I'm not losing my damn mind. And she hears it. And I forgot to add this part, but while John was seeing, Joseph getting killed, I guess Joseph in a way possessed him, and he wrote out a certain things, Joseph Carmichael, metal, the well, and something else. I can't remember what it was, but he wrote the shit down. Oh, Sacred Heart, that was what it was, Sacred Heart. And like I said, Claire comes over, she listens to the tape, and she starts crying. Like, she's crying. Her face is red, and she's just sitting there against, the post and the next room over. And she's like, there was this orphanage called Sacred Heart, but it was closed down years ago. And then John, leans in, and it starts kind of slowly clicking together. He's just like, the boy, he was murdered in in the upstairs room by his father, and Claire just can't take this shit. Like, this is a lot for her to take in, so she's like, just stop it, John, just stop it, just, will you be quiet for half? And then she gets cut off, and we get this dramatic, her freaking out, and we're literally looking at her. Like, the way it is, like, we're panned through, looking through the doorway, and we see her come in. She looks up the stairs, and it just hits the wall with the gas. And John just like, what the fuck? And, he gets up, and he walks over, and then we get, again, one of my favorite, another good scene, where we get the dramatic music, and Joseph has wheeled his fucking wheelchair to the edge of the stairs, and is now just sitting there looking at them. And it's, oh my god, it was, when I was a kid, that shit terrified me, because that was just something I didn't see coming. I didn't think he could bring his wheelchair all the way down those stairs, but he did, man. He was just sitting there just like, hey, bitches, what up? What y'all talking about? Y'all talking shit on me? But, again, the music really adds to this shit. So, we cut to the next day. I guess they're slowly trying to piece everything together, because, Joseph Carmichael's the name of the senator that's in town. So, the gears got to start turning. And we get to a scene where the senator comes into his office, and Minnie has given him a call. And again, it goes back to, what does Minnie know? Because she calls him and tells him that they have been going through the files. And he's just like, give me that name again, John Russell? Which means she's fully aware of the fact that something happened. And I want to say Senator Carmichael knew himself. Not everything, but I think he knew, because you find out in the following scenes after Minnie makes the phone call that Senator Carmichael, not Senator Carmichael, his dad basically married a woman whose dad's like a fucking gazillionaire, and she died giving birth to her son, Joseph. Sorry, I wouldn't hit my vape. But she died giving birth to Joseph, and let's see, I think he was 6 years old. I think he was 6 years old at the time. But she died giving birth to Joseph, so all the money was gonna go straight to the son. Like, he apparently did not give a shit about the son-in-law. All of it was gonna go to Joseph. But there was like a contingency in the will, where basically Joseph gets all this money as long as he lives up to 18. Well, Father didn't want to take that risk. Father is here, who has like all this fucking money in his face, but he can't touch it until this child turns 18. Well, this kid is all at 6 years old, bedridden and crippled. He didn't want to take a chance, so he killed his son. And the way he got away with this shit was the fact that, and they find this out with a little bit of research in the scene where they're at a diner, they're passing notes. But you find out that, oh god, what year was it? Somewhere in shortly after he killed his son, in 1907 or 08, he went to Switzerland to, quote unquote, cure his son of his crippledness. And unfortunately, he got kind of caught up in World War I over there, so they didn't return back until like 1920. So basically the war even worked for him to cover this up. But yeah, so by the time they got back, Joseph, 18 years old, who's going to know the difference? I mean, if he's able to walk, that means he was cured. So no one's asking these questions. But again, 6 years old, which means Carmichael was probably adopted around 5 or 6 years old. So that means he's got to know something's up. Like, I don't know the dad ever told him. I mean, I doubt it, to be honest. I doubt him. He probably said, hey, my son died, and I need you to be my son, you're my replacement, blah, 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 some bullshit. I don't think he told him that he killed his previous son, but I think he at least told him that he would become an important man. Because the way Joseph Carmichael defends his father near the end of the movie, which I will delve into in a little bit. But, yeah, I don't know how much information Minnie knows, and I don't know how much information Senator Carmichael knows. And that's something we'll never actually get an answer to, which I'm not even sad about, to be honest. I'm really not sad about that. It adds this beautiful mystery to the movie, to answers we're never going to get because they're not really important. Like, it's like kind of more of a curiosity thing. Like, what do they know? Like, do they know? But, yeah, I just think that's just well writing right there. But, while they're doing their research, they find out that there's a piece of property out that was owned by the Carmichael or Spencer Ranch. The Spencer Ranch, that's what they're looking for. Because he wrote, the well on a piece of paper. And he thinks Joseph was disposed of into this well. Like, he was killed and then put in this well. So he goes to where this well would be located at, and there's a fucking house there. So he ends up calling the woman of the house. Her name is Mrs. Gray. And she's like, listen. I wouldn't normally let you in here because you're a fucking crackpot, but it's something you said on the phone a few days ago. And she proceeds to tell a story about how her daughter woke up screaming, terrified, and said that on the night of the seance, there was a boy, very thin, very pale, trying to come up through the floor. And it scared her to the point that she won't even come back into her bedroom. So, I'm assuming John might have told Mrs. Gray about the well and how he wants to find this well. And she's just like, you know what, I'm going to have to think about that. Well, that night, while they're sleeping, the little girl wakes up and has the same fucking nightmare. And we actually get to see it at this point. We actually get to see her wake up from her sleep, go to her bedroom. We hear like the cracking of the wood, and then we just see Joseph coming up from the fucking well, just ever so slowly floating up, and it's just like, oh my god! Especially with the fucking music. Yet again, the beautiful ass music. But she's like, all right, fuck it, John can tear this room apart. So we go to the next scene, and they're digging the fucking well out, and as they're digging, this scene, I just think it's funny because the way he delivered the line, I don't know what the director said to him, but it's just the way he delivered his line I thought was funny. But as they're digging through the well, they're bringing out the buckets of dirt, and they're just like going through, and he hits something, he stops, and he digs it out, and he takes the dirt off, and it's a skeleton hand. It's an actual hand. And he says that too, but it's the way he says that. Shit you not, it's the way he does it. He takes that and he's like, oh my god. What is it? It's a hand. What? It's a hand. Like he's just so taken aback, just, oh my god, it's a hand. But I just love the way he delivers that line. It's fucking hilarious to me. But, the police show up, and they're asking them questions, and they're like, why didn't you tell them about, it being related to the senator? He's like, well, I don't have any proof. Because they couldn't find the medal, again, the Sacred Heart medal, which he wrote on the fucking piece of paper. So, if he can find this medal, he can kind of connect two and two together and be like, hey, bro, hey, wait a minute, Senator, we need to talk, bro. But, because he didn't find it, he breaks back into the house and starts digging himself, and of course he finds the medal, and he goes to Claire's and goes, listen, I don't know what else to fucking do here, so I'm gonna go talk to the senator. And she's like, he won't see you now. Oh, I'm gonna make him see me. And he does. He fucking drives on in while the senator's getting on a fucking private plane. He runs out like a crazy man, just running out with this medal in his hand. He's like, Senator, I need to talk to you. I found this at the house. It was with the body of a little boy. It just let me talk to him. And the senator's just like, who the fuck is that guy? And as he's flying, he's like, hey, bro, get in contact with Captain DeWitt. Have him show up at the house. And what makes it even greater is that after he says that, we pan over to the senator, and he pulls out a fucking little medal. The little Sacred Heart medal. He has one too, so he knows what's up. He's just like, what does he know? But he looks more like, more confused than anything else. More like, wait, this is my medal. What the hell did he have? So John, out of frustration, goes to his house, and he's just like, and this would be me in a horror movie scenario, by the way. This would be me if my house was haunted. Fucking opens the door and he slams the door out of frustration. He's just, he's angry about the situation. And as he slams the door, Joseph, he too is angry. So he proceeds to slam all the fucking doors in the house. Just like, no, bitch. And John's just like, God damn son of a bitch, what do you want from me? And I have to say, I usually don't care for the whole pan up scene of this person spinning around like in I Know What You Did Last Summer, screaming, what do you want from me, huh? But this one was done very, very well because we're panning up towards like the top of the house where Joseph would be at. And it feels natural because he is frustrated. He's like, I have done everything I can do. There's nothing more I can do. So literally quit being mad at me, bro. Like, he's literally out of options here. Like, he found the bones. He knows the secret. But no one's gonna believe him about this shit. And Joseph is just as equally as pissed. And he's just like, what the fuck you want me to do about it? And that's just me in a ghost scenario. It's just like, what the hell do you want me to do about it, man? Like, you did, I tried, like, fuck you, man. So he goes to take a nap because he's exhausted from the day. I mean, I would be too. I honestly would be, to be perfectly honest. And he gets a knock at the door, so he goes to investigate, and it's fucking Captain DeWitt. Now, the captain is here on behalf of Senator Carmichael because Senator Carmichael thinks he's getting blackmail. And he's like, this ain't a dirty little blackmail scheme. I'm trying to talk to him because something's up. I'm getting communicated by a fucking ghost. And it's one of those, nobody ever says that out loud, but everybody knows a fucking ghost told him about the bones. Because even, they make one comment about that. I think DeWitt did. He was just like, you come screaming across the airport, making crazy accusations against the senator who served our country for 32 years and would not be done in by some dirty little blackmail scheme because some ghostly voice told you where some bones were at. And then, John just frustrated. He's like, get the fuck out of my house. And then Claire shows up, right? Claire's mad as fuck. They made her resign from the society. They want him out of the house. His lease has been expired. No questions, no answers to anything. Just pack up and get the fuck out. And then DeWitt says, well, you know what? I want that medal. The senator says you have a little gold chain and he thinks you took it. He wants it back. And John's just like, wait a minute. I don't know what medal you talking about, bro. Get the fuck out of my house. And he's just like, just don't give it to me. I'll come back with a search warrant. We'll tear this place apart. And he's like, go for it. Try me, bro. So DeWitt leaves, Claire leaves, and then again we get another good fucking scene of him walking to his mirror, and it's all coming into him just like, oh fuck, man, like, what are we gonna do? And he's got the medal in his hand. He looks up at the mirror, and it shatters. It just yet again, the music makes the scene, but it fucking shatters, and we see DeWitt dead in the mirror. His car is flipped upside down and his windshield is shattered. And of course, a piece of glass gets into John's neck and he pulls it out. Don't worry, he's not dying or anything. It's just like a little paper cut. It literally is. But then he gets a phone call. He picks it up and it's Claire. And she's like, I don't know how this could have happened. I don't know how this happened because there's no other cars in the middle of the road. But it was that cop who was just at your house. He's dead. And we get a scene of literally the car upside down and the mirror is outside, the car is shattered, and the middle of the windshield is just fucking got a hole in it, and DeWitt's dead. We don't know how he died. We don't know what Joseph did to him, but we know Joseph fucking killed his ass. Because Joseph's like, you ain't coming to my house, bitch, and tearing my house apart. Fuck you, DeWitt. So that lets you know Joseph's pretty fucking strong. And of course, they gotta tell the senator at some point. So the senator ends up getting a fucking phone call. And he's just like, wait a minute, what do you mean DeWitt's dead? Oh my god. Like, at this point, even he's just like, this is like fucking crazy as hell. So the senator finally agrees to meet up with John and talk to him. I'm just like, all right, man, What the hell do you want? And the whole time, now at this point, this is the climax of the movie, by the way. And we've gotten, the secrets out. We know who Joseph is. We know the house is haunted. We know this ghost is powerful. We know he's very angry because he's a very angry boy, which I don't blame him. I mean, he was killed for the cruelest prophet of the world, the prophet of greed. The little boy, 6 years old, didn't get to live life because his daddy's a greedy little son of a bitch. Fuck that guy. But, yeah, no, I'm sorry. Fuck that guy. He's just fucking cold. I'm sorry. He's just fucking cold. I mean, who the hell kills their kid for money? Granted, who kills their kid at all? But just for fucking money, that just makes me sick. Oh, excuse-moi. But anyway, why he's having this conversation with Senator Carmichael, though, Claire's trying to get in touch with John because she's worried for him. So she decides to go to the house. So while she's heading over to the house, John's just like, hey man, so I think you're a changeling, by the way. He even says that. He goes, your family used to live in the Chessman Park house until 1907, where a little boy was killed and a replacement was brought in and was taken to Switzerland and come back cured to inherit an empire. That little changeling was you. There's a bigger speech about it, but I can't quote the entire speech. I wish I could, but I can't. But, the senator's just like, all right, how much do you want? How much do you want for this little blackmail scheme? He's like, I don't want your money, bro. I'm just here to do the bidding. Like, here's the tapes. Here's the necklace. Here's all the information I have in public works. I did my job, man. But the reason why I believe the senator knows something's up, because he's just like, if someone comes in with a farce story as crazy as yours, they wait their chance and try to take it. And it's just like, if this is such a farce story, why are you so worried about it, bro? Like, it would be in public records about all this shit, so why are you fucking worried? So again, I want to know what the hell he knows, but again, I don't think he knows about the death of the original son, because the way he defends his father, he's just like, no, my father was a good man. My father would never have done this. Like, he's in such denial. And you even can see that when he's comparing the two necklaces, and he's just like, he just angrily throws one to the side once John leaves. And I don't know which one it is that he throws, because it's really hard to tell the difference between these two necklaces. But he throws one, he puts one on the picture of his dad, and he's just like looking at it. So we cut back to Claire. And this is my favorite scene in the entire fucking movie. This is the scene that traumatized me till to this day. It still traumatizes me. But Claire shows up at the house. And she's walking on in. And you're hearing John echoing throughout the house, because Joseph apparently can mimic John's voice. And as she's searching the house, she's going further and further upstairs. She gets to Joseph's room, and she's standing at the stairs. She's like, John, I don't want to come up there. And, Joseph gets her to come up there, just going, Claire, mimicking John. So she's worried that, maybe he's done falling and hurt himself or something. I don't know why. She decides to go up those fucking stairs. And she's just like, John? She opens the door, and of course it creaks, because, in every horror movie, the door's gotta be the most creakiest motherfucker ever. And as she opens it, we get a pan to the fucking wheelchair, and that thing goes, it makes like this crazy fucking noise. Like, I'm talking about like it's a terrifying noise. It's a terrifying fucking noise. But it makes that noise, and it spins around and starts chasing her ass down this fucking hallway. And she's screaming, looking back. The music's picking up. We got the fucking orchestra, and ding, ding, and the fucking trumpets, and then the choir just going at it. Like, 110% was thrown into this scene. 110% was thrown in. But damn it, man, this bitch runs. She falls down the stairs. The fucking wheelchair goes down the stairs and it flips on down. It's upside down. She's now so hysterical. She's trying to climb back up the stairs. And John comes in and grabs her. And she's just like, oh, God, John, I tried to call you. And she's like freaking the fuck out. And he's just like, you need to get out of this house. Let's get out of this house. And she, you know, hysterical as ever. They open up the fucking door. And they sit her down. And he's like, oh, I'm going back in that house real quick. She's like, no, the fuck you ain't. Now, that's something that did always bother me. Why did John go back into the house? What was he going to do? Like, he knew Joseph was about to do something. But what was he going to do? Just ask Joseph politely to stop? Like, Joseph, we need to talk. You know, hey, man, don't be doing anything stupid. But Joseph don't give a fuck. Joseph starts blowing wind so intensely, he's got to hold on to the railing as he's climbing on up. And he gets to the second floor in front of his bedroom, and of course the doors slam open, the wind's gusting out, throws him off the balcony, he lands on the floor, kind of concusses him a little bit, and you just hear the banging of Joseph drowning again, you know, boom, boom, and every time the banging happens, the fucking chandelier, which, again, if I might add that, I forgot to explain some of the details of the interior of this house, but there's a goddamn chandelier that hangs down from these stairs. And this thing's shaking, and every time it shakes, the fucking, you know, pieces are coming off of it. And while this is happening, you know, we see like a little flame come down the stairs, and the house starts catching on fire. Joseph set his own fucking house on fire, by the way. His own house, he's just like, fuck this shit. And it starts going. And then we cut back to the senator, who's now just sitting there, staring at his necklace, staring at the picture of his dad. And Joseph communicates with him. And, you know, his desk starts shaking, and the music starts picking up, and we start hearing the drowning sound effects, and all we see is the senator standing there with his hands on the table, and his, as the medallion is just like flopping on the fucking painting. And, we then cut back to John, and he looks up, and the fucking senator is like there in spirit, I think. I think that's supposed to be the metaphor there, that he's there in spirit to witness the incident, to let Senator Carmichael know, no, your dad did this. Our dad did this for money, for greed, for profit of nothing more but billions of dollars. Fuck you and fuck your dad, who's my dad. But Senator Carmichael sees this shit, and he opens up the door, and he gets to see the flashback of, you know, his dad, and it's so much for him, he has a heart attack and dies. And at the same time, you know, John, at this point, he's just like, you know what, I did my shit, the house is on fire, I'm getting the fuck out. So him and Claire, they get the hell out, and they head back to the senator's place, and when they get there, the senator, of course, he's being wheeled away in a fucking ambulance because he's dead. Joseph got his revenge, and we get this beautiful panoramic shot again. Such a beautiful shot of them backing away from the house as it's engulfed in flames. And it's all burning down, and no one's stopping this fire. I guess because everyone's so distracted with the death of the senator, nobody knows his house is on fire. And it burns out throughout the night. And then that next morning, you just see the wheelchair. What's left of the wheelchair? It's actually set up this time. It's set up. It ain't on the ground flipped upside down. It's actually set up, and next to it is the music box. And it ends with the music box opening and just the melody of the music box playing as the credits roll. That is the most satisfying and yet bone-chilling ending to a movie I ever experienced because of that music. Because of the writing, the score, just everything built up to this movie. It's just fantastic to me. Just utterly fucking fantastic. But I have to say, you know, I love everything about this movie. And I said in the beginning of the podcast that the scares are so well built up. So when we got that scare, that last scare of the wheelchair coming to life, that truly terrified me. And I didn't really think it traumatized me that much until I played the game Song of Horror, and that incident happened to me when that wheelchair came to life and was coming at me. Oh, sorry. Hang on, it's saying... Oh, no, Okay, I was reading that wrong. Sorry, it was saying the stream might have dropped. I don't know. It looks alright though. It looks good. But yeah. What was I saying? I lost my train of thought because of that. But basically, shit, I officially lost my. That choo-choo had done jumped the track. I got distracted all in 5 seconds. Scares. Yes, the fucking final jump scare. But that scene traumatized me a lot. Not like recently. There's a show I do want to discuss on this podcast probably sometime in January called They, and that show traumatized me for like a whole other different reason. But this scene, it stuck with me. I'm still scared of wheelchairs from that era. Like if I see one, I kind of cringe out a little bit, like, oh my god, please get that thing away from me. Because I just think back to Joseph and the fucking wheelchair just chasing. Because I used to have nightmares of that shit. You know, I'll be in my house, just like, Mom, and then I hear that noise and the fucking wheelchair coming out like that scene in Dream Warriors and Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Fucking just, the fucking wheelchair just coming at me. Like, this shit terrified me. Just terrified me. Yeah. But, absolutely love this movie. There's a lot of good suspense, a lot of good build-up. It's a well-earned scare. Everything in this movie is well-earned because they didn't make it cheesy. They didn't make it corny. They played it straight. And that's what I like about this movie. They played it fucking straight. Like, they didn't make him be over-dramatic. They didn't make him be a completely broken man. They didn't have it where no one believed him. But overall, it was a really good fucking movie. Thank you. But everything was well-earned. Everything was well-earned in this movie. And I absolutely adore this fucking movie. I could spend hours talking about this movie. It is hands down my favorite horror movie of all times. My favorite ghost movie. Yeah. Out of all like the haunted movies like the Amityville Horror, fucking LLC, Hell House. You know, out of all the haunted house movies I've ever seen in my life, this one has to be one of my favorites because it has a good suspense, a good build-up, and a great fucking twist. The whole fact that the twist is he was supposed to be he's basically the child that was killed that hang on, how do I put this? He's basically the kid that was killed and replaced by a guy who became a senator. Like, that's a big fucking twist that you don't even get to see very much nowadays. You really don't get to see kind of cool twists like that. And if they are there, they're not really played off too memorable. And I will say, it kind of sucks. A lot of people don't know much about this movie. Like, there are so many people within the last, 3 years I've talked to and have told them about this movie. Because, you know, they know me as this horror guru, this horror queen, who knows all these different horror movies. I'm talking about Thailand horror movies, Korean, Japanese, American, Canadian, fucking Mexico. All these different types of horror movies from around the world. So when I look at you and go, this one is my favorite, you get a little curious and go, why is it your favorite? And it's because it's so simple. It's so simple, but yet so elegant. It is literally a well-crafted. I love that movie from beginning to end. It's a movie I literally just rewatched it again before I started this stream, and I just watched it the week before for Halloween. That lets you know how much I love this movie. Like, I'm willing to watch this movie any fucking time I get. Like, when I got Shudder for the first time, this was one of the first movies I put on. I put on The Changeling, then followed by Halloween. But I have to say, if y'all ever get a chance, this is a beautiful hidden gem, a beautiful movie. It's well crafted, well earned, well loved, and well loved by me, and very beloved to me. And like I said, I own this movie. I was like maybe 6-7 years old when I watched this movie. My mom had it on VHS back in the day, and like I said, this particular movie stood out to me because it had a red case on it. Like, it was literally red with the words and like it had a black box with the writing in white. So it really stuck out to me. When I was a kid, you know, we didn't have many VHSs, but I would, you know, get distracted by that cover every now and then because my mom, for some fucked up reason, had it to where it was the first movie you saw when you walked into the hallway. It was just like there, and then the rest of our movies, like it was like, I shit you not, like all of our home videos, and then down this next shelf, it was just like The Changeling, Reading Rainbow. The big comfy couch. Yeah, Mom, great placement for these movies, by the way. I love you, Mom. I love you, I do. But, you know, it always caught my eye as a kid, and I would ask my mom, hey, Mom, can I watch this movie? Mom, I think you're too young for this, it would scare you. And eventually, one of my brother's friends, his name was Josh, or was it his brother Wade? I can't remember. I remember it was Josh and his brother Wade. And they wanted to watch the movie because they heard so much about it at the time. And Mom was like, well, we got a copy of it. We can all sit down and watch it. And I begged my mom. I was like, Mom, please let me just watch it. Please, come on. I'm a big girl. I can handle this. And Mom looked me dead in the eyes and was like, all right, you want to watch it? You really want to watch it? Don't have nightmares, because I will not hold you. I was like, why? She was like, because I told you you're too young for this movie, but you keep on insisting. So if you want to watch it, go for it. Oh yeah, no, I had nightmares, alright. I had fucking nightmares. I refused to take a bath for a solid month. Like, I took showers. That's all I did. I took showers. And then I watched The Grudge, so I started running out of options how I was going to take baths. I was too scared to take a bath because of Joseph, and I was too scared to take showers because I was worried The Grudge was going to come through my hair. But the point is, I watched it, and yeah, it scared me, and it didn't help that fucking my brother and his stupid ass friend, they were fucking with me too. Like, at one point, I was coming back in from the bathroom, they jump scared me, whispering Joseph's name, and like, they pissed me off about that. But yeah, I grew up with this movie. I still absolutely love and adore this movie. Everything about this movie is just fantastic to me. Like I said, the acting, the atmosphere, the set design, the filmography, the cinematography, just everything about this movie is just top notch to me, 100%. Like, it's perfect. I don't say that lightly either. I've seen a bunch of horror movies in my life, and I never once met a perfect horror movie except for The Changeling. To me, it is perfect. I love it. It has everything I'm looking for, and it still has that bit of mystery behind it that we will never get answers to, because it's just, they're not important, but it still gets you thinking, gets your gears a turning, gets you wondering more about this movie. And that's what I really, really love about this movie. It's like, even 20 years later, I can still watch this movie and still fucking find things about this movie I love. Like, I never zone out. I love this movie 100%. But yeah, if y'all ever get a chance, it's on Shudder. And I know there is a copy or two, full HD quality, by the way, on YouTube. But I would highly recommend Shudder, because after that, you can go and watch the original Halloween movie, which is my second favorite horror movie, but my first favorite horror slasher. Well, I think I done ramped about enough. I know it's about 20 minutes early, but if I keep rambling, all you're going to hear from me is, I love this movie. This movie's fantastic. Oh, God, the Changeling this, the musical, the music that, the cinematography. I'm just going to keep going on and on and on about it, because like I said, I could talk hours about this movie. But we're going to go ahead and end this here. I hope everybody who has watched, is watching, will watch. I hope you enjoy. I hope everybody has a fantastic and a wonderful night. And next week, we're going to be continuing the theming. I forgot to tell you the theme this month. So this theme, because it's my birthday month, this theme is my favorite things. So this week was my favorite horror movie. Next week is going to be fun, because next week as well, the new Dark Picture Anthology game will be coming out. And I will be playing it, and I'm going to be talking and reviewing, discussing everything about the Dark Picture Anthology series and its predecessors, Until Dawn and The Quarry, because I absolutely love supermassive gaming franchises, especially the Dark Picture ones. Those are some of my favorite Make Your Choices games. Actually, just one of my favorite horror franchises ever. Like, no offense to Resident Evil, no offense to Silent Hill, but I will say, with Resident Evil, there's a handful of games. Some of the majority of the mainstream games I like. Same thing with Silent Hill. Some of the mainstream games I like, but there are some games I can live or take away with. And unfortunately, I can't say the same thing when it comes to the Dark Picture anthology. Each game I have enjoyed, and going back and editing a lot of the Dark Picture games for my YouTube, which shameless plug, I'm in the Place 93 if you want to catch any of my gameplay footage, especially of the Dark Picture games. I will probably do something a little bit different for next week's background. And instead of the usual smoky fog and trees, I would probably just have gameplay footage of me playing it in the background. But yeah, next week we'll be talking about Dark Picture games, and then the week after that I'll be talking about my favorite horror TV show ever. Before everyone goes, oh my god, you're talking about The Walking Dead? No. I like The Walking Dead, don't get me wrong. It's enjoyable. I'm behind 3 seasons though. Yes, I'm one of those losers who stopped watching after Glenn died, but it ain't because Glenn died. Let me digress a little bit. It's not because Glenn died, no. It is because I was so intrigued with Negan and Rick's relationship that I wanted to see more. And I got really butthurt, and I shit you not when I say this, really butthurt for I think it was like a solid month. 3 weeks to a month. We didn't even go back and see Rick and Negan hang out for a little while because we were too busy focusing on some of the goddamn side characters I could give 2 shits about. I'm sorry to all you Eugene fans, but I hate Eugene. Okay? I never liked that motherfucker. I thought he was a coward. I thought he was a pussy. He just... I really wish he would die at some point in the season, that is. I know he doesn't die. I know he's very much alive. And that kind of irks me. But yeah, I did not give a fuck about him. I hated what he did to everybody originally in the group, where he lied and said, I'm a scientist. No, the fuck you weren't. You're just a coward. And then the amount of times he betrayed Rick and the group, which is fucking ridiculous. Like, I was just sick and tired of it. And we literally spent like 2 or 3 episodes. And yeah, I think 2 or 3 episodes, it's by a weekly basis. So about 3 weeks, I'm forced to hang out with this motherfucker who I could really care less about. And the people I care about, no fucks given. I'm like, oh no, we're gonna watch Rick sulk in the corner, you know. We're gonna watch Negan just be an asshole over here. It's like, no, I want to see them duke it out. I want to see these 2 egomaniacs butt their heads together because they have a very similar pathing. As you think about it, Negan and Rick had a very similar upbringing in this whole zombie apocalypse thing almost. But that's a different discussion for a different day. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go on a tangent about that. But no, my favorite Netflix horror TV show is The Haunting of Hill House. I absolutely love that show. I've seen it 4 times. Funny enough, the first time I saw it, I popped up on Netflix, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, another little horror show. I knew nothing about it. That was the funny part. I knew nothing about it. And I was watching it, and of course, it's starting to pull me in and drag me in as I'm watching it. And I started noticing some key points from The Haunting, like the original Haunting movie, which is based off of. I'm like, wait a minute, Hugh Crane? What? Holy shit. And then I started doing some Google research, and I'm like, oh my god, this is supposed to be an adaptation. Oh my god. So I got my roommate involved on this shit after I binge watched the entire series in one night. That's 10 hours worth of binge watching I did. Went over to his house the next day and was just like, bro, you gotta watch this fucking show with me. And he was like, alright, bet. And we did. We binge watched that whole show, and he was just like, dude, I love this fucking show. So that's how we're gonna play the rest of the month off. We will be doing Dark Picture anthologies and its predecessors next week, and then the week after we will be doing Haunting of Hill House. During the Haunting of Hill House, I'll probably have my roommate and best friend involved because, again, he really loves the show, and unfortunately Bidwell has never seen the show, so he can't have any kind of input to it. And I'm not about to ask that man to sit down and watch 10 fucking hours of a show he may or may not even like. And of course, with the Dark Picture game, he unfortunately has not played all of them. I think he's only played like 1 or 2 of them, and he wants to play the rest, so he really has no input either because he's only played 1 or 2 games, so he can't really do any kind of comparisons and have any talking points or anything. So he's going to skip out on that one too, which again is understandable. That's a lot of games to be playing through and going through as well. But that's a story for another day. So until then, my friends, Y'all take care.